Hello and welcome. You're listening to the Orange and Blueshirt podcast. This is a podcast about the orange and blue of the New York Mets and the Blueshirts on Broadway, the New York Rangers. I'm your host, Luke. You can find me on Twitter at LukesPod, that is at LUKESPOD. I did a feature with the gem at MetsJunkies.com. I went on his podcast, so check that out. Also, subscribe to my YouTube and follow my podcast wherever you're listening. Whether that be on Anchor, Spotify, YouTube, just subscribe to it. You can find it by searching the Orange and Blue Shirt podcast. Today is a Mets only episode, so what I'm planning to do in the next few weeks is I'm going to record this Mets only episode reviewing all the offseason moves. Then the next episode will be a Rangers only episode where I review all of the Rangers' last games, and then I'll record another Mets episode, a Mets only episode after that. Right before spring training, going over like the projected lineups, and I'll make some predictions on the season. Alright, so anyway, this episode is going to be just an unscripted, off-the-cuff review of most of the moves the Mets have made this offseason. I have the Mets transactions page open here in another tab. I'm just going to scroll through and give you my thoughts on all the trades and signings. But before we start, I just want to say that the biggest move of the offseason wasn't the Mets acquiring anybody. It was someone acquiring the Mets. Steve Cohen is the MVP, and he made all these moves happen. Alright, so let's... Sorry if you hear all the clicking, typing, scrolling, whatever. That just gets picked up by my mic. Alright, so let's start here. We re-signed Marcus Stroman for... I think he had the qualifying offer. I think that's $18.9 million. So it's great to have him. He's part of our top 4 guys that could be aces on other teams. So I'm just really happy that he signed the qualifying offer. He's definitely making too much, especially since opting out last year. But he's a good pitcher, and I'm glad that he's still on the team. Before that, says we signed Malik Smith. I think Malik Smith is just going to be, at most, a bench guy that comes in late innings for defensive substitutions. He might be a pinch runner, but I think he might just be in the minors since we signed Almora Jr., who's better than him. Of course, Robinson Cano got suspended. It's a blessing in disguise. We don't have his $20 billion contract, so. And the next most important move after that is Sam McWilliams. He's, from what I know, a pitcher that just throws absolute gas. So, I think a lot of teams are interested in him, so that makes me feel like he's going to be good, or at least he has a lot of upside. I don't know what his role is going to be this year. I think he might just be a guy in the minors, but I'm fine. The Mets this whole offseason has been highlighted by depth, so I think this is just another good signing. The next signing after that is Trevor Hildenberger. I don't think he's good enough to be a piece in the Mets. I'm pretty sure he's a bullpen piece, so I don't think he's going to be good enough to be a piece in our bullpen. Probably just going to be he's a non-roster invite to spring training, so whatever. I think at most he's going to be stuck in the minors, AAA. But hey, another pitching guy. You can't have enough. Can never have too much pitching. The next big move the Mets made was signing Trevor May. This is the first move, at least the first big move of the offseason. First move under Steve Cohen, and it's a great move. Trevor May is a great, not only is he a great Twitch streamer, he's actually one hell of a baseball player. His 2020 stats, in 23 innings pitched, he had a 3.86 ERA with 38 strikeouts. So I think he's going to be a great bullpen piece for us. Yeah, he's going to be the guy before. I don't know if he's going to be a setup guy. I think more of a stopper. But he has great stuff, so I'm happy that the Mets signed him. The next big move was getting our catcher for the next 4 years, James McCann. This guy has a lot less innings on his knees than, say, a guy that would be more expensive like JT Realmuto. I know that no one signed JT Realmuto until the Phillies really late in the offseason. It was for pretty cheap, so a lot of people are saying the Mets should have signed him for how cheap it was. I disagree. I think he's getting old now. I think he's still going to be a great person, but I think James McCann People are really overlooking how good he is. I mean, his bat isn't the best. I mean, he has some power. In 2020, he hit 7 home runs and 97 at bats with a 289 average and a 360 OBP. So he's not going to be a hindrance. He's going to be a good bat, but what you're really getting for is he's a way better defense than Wilson Ramos, and they call him the cannon for a reason. He has a cannon of an arm, and I'm excited to see him be a battery with all the pitchers that we have. So, okay, moving on. The Mets signed Jerry Blevins and Jared Eichhoff, another few pitchers. I'm glad to have Jerry Blevins back. He's a great guy. Not the best baseball player anymore, but you can never have too much pitching. It's more depth guys, and that's really the highlight of the offseason. The Mets then signed Brandon Drury, depth infield guy, probably will be in the minors, spring training invitee. Nothing special there with Brandon Drury. And then the biggest move of the offseason by far came up after second move behind Steve Cohen, but the biggest player acquisition was the Mets trading outfielder Isaiah Green, pitcher Josh Wolf, shortstop Ahmed Rosario, and shortstop Andres Jimenez to the Cleveland Indians, or the Cleveland baseball team, whatever they're calling them now, for Carlos Carrasco and shortstop Francisco Lindor. So despite what Andy Martino says, I think Francisco Lindor will get signed to an extension, and just give him a blank check. He's going to be the face of our franchise for a long time. He's only 27. In 2020, in 236 plate appearances, he drove in 30 runs, hit 8 home runs, 27 RBI, 258 average, 335 OBP. Dude's a star, and I can't wait for him to be in the infield for hopefully the next 6-7 years. But not an underrated acquisition, because everyone knows that he's good, but the second piece in that trade was Carlos Carrasco, 33 years of age, Mr. Consistency. He is so consistent. In 2020, 2.91 ERA and 68 innings pitched with 82 strikeouts. Like, that's just amazing. He's going to be probably a 3 or a 4 when Thor is healthy. I think he's better than Stroman. He's probably going to be a 3. But the fact that we can have this guy as our 3 is crazy. So, yeah, he's not an underrated pickup because everyone knows that he's good, but he definitely is a sleeper candidate for, like, one of the most surprising Mets this season. I think he's going to do really good. The next move the Mets made was getting Stephen Tarpley off waivers from the Marlins. That's basically a nothing pickup. He had a 9 ERA in 2020 with the Marlins. He's not going to do much with the Mets, I don't think. The next acquisition was Jose Martinez, and I love this pickup. Not only can he play a little bit of first base, he can play the outfield. I don't know if the Mets want to put him on the bench. I think they're going to put him on the bench. I don't think he's going to be in the minors, but yeah, in 2020, he had 88 at-bats, hit 2 home runs. I'm pretty sure he's a power bat. Like, that's not great for a power bat. Of course, he had a terrible average at 182, but his career stats, 4-3 home runs, 289 average. If that's what you get, sign me up for that bench piece. Another great example of the Mets getting good depth. I think that's really the highlight, as you're going to see, besides like the big acquisitions like Lindor and whatever we trade for after, maybe like a third base. This offseason is going to be defined by our depth. Like, the winning teams, like Yamamoto, Brandon Drury, Jose Martinez, Albert Almora Jr., they're not going to win you the World Series, but all of them collectively, all their depth is going to help you win games that will get you to the World Series. So I have to skip a lot of this page. A lot of it's just signing free agents. There's that one day, the 15th, where the Mets signed like 1,000 dudes for the minors. So, yeah, that's whatever. The next big move was a 3-team trade with the Pirates and the Padres, where the Mets basically gave up, I'm pretty sure, Andy Rodriguez, the catcher, as well as a couple pitching prospects to the Pirates, and they got Joey Lucchesi from the Padres. It's another example of a depth piece. He could be our 5 starter at most, but a lefty in the bullpen at worst, so this is a great pickup in my opinion. He didn't do the best in 2020, 7.94 ERA, but that's what can you expect. He's going to be good. He's still young, and at one point he was a great prospect. I just think it's another great pickup from the Mets. And one of the most underrated most underrated trade of the offseason was freeing up Steven Matz' contract for Josh Winkowski, Yenzi Diaz, and Sean Reed-Foley, all three who are right-handed pitchers. Sean Reed-Foley, I think, is the main guy from that trade, even though the main thing was getting rid of Steven Matz, which I'm really happy about. It's a great trade. But what makes this trade so amazing is, I'll talk about it later when we traded Josh Winkowski, but I'll talk about it in due time. The next big pickup was Aaron Loup. Aaron Loup, lefty from Tampa Bay. He was drafted by the Blue Jays, but he was at Tampa Bay before. In 2020, he had a 2.52 ERA, 22 strikeouts, and 25 innings pitched. He's going to be our main lefty in our bullpen. Even though I think the Mets are still looking to sign Justin Wilson, and they already have Joe Lucchesi. I think he's like the main bullpen lefty that we have, even with like Jerry Blevins. Again, he's going to be the guy that we go to when there's a lefty. We need 3 outs. He's going to be the guy. Another great depth piece. Another great shortstop added. The next trade was Federico Polano, a shortstop, to the Marlins for Jordan Yamamoto. I mentioned him before. Great pitching depth. He has great stuff when it's on. We saw him throw some nasty curveballs last season against the Mets. Or was it sliders? His stuff moves anyway. He has great stuff. He did get lit up in 2020. 18 ERA and 11 innings pitched. Yeah, so not the best. I think he will have a bounce back year, whether it be in the bullpen or in the minors. And you can bring him up as a starter later. He's still very young. So that's another good depth piece for the Mets. The next few moves were the Mets designating Ali Sanchez for assignment, and then we traded him to the Cardinals for cash. I still can't find a number for the cash. I tried to look it up. I didn't find anything. But Ali Sanchez was the odd man out. We have Thomas Nido, backup James McCann. James McCann was signed for 4 years, and after those 4 years, it's definitely not going to be Ali Sanchez's time. That's going to be Francisco Alvarez, who I hope we don't trade. He's going to be a star, and he's the next guy up after James McCann. And so, a couple days ago, on the 10th, the Mets did another 3-team trade and acquired Khalil Lee from the Royals, who has a lot of upside. He stole, 50-something bases in 2019 in the minors. So yeah, he's a speed demon. He has some power upside in the future, I feel. And he is going to be on the 40-man roster because he was already on the 40-man in Kansas City. We'll take that with a grain of salt because they sucked. But in 129 games in 2019, the last full season that he played, he had 8 home runs and had 53 stolen bases. So yeah, he's going to be a speed demon. Hopefully his bat improves. He hits for average, gets on base. So if his bat can get more home runs, I've seen him in Trevor Bauer's videos, like the live at-bats and everything. He can hit nukes when he wants to, but he's just going to be a great pickup. The main thing for the Mets this offseason, or one of the main things, was they always got involved in the 3-man trade. They picked up on everything saying, you two are making a trade, what can I get out of it? It basically seems like I can give you 5 cents and you give me this top 8 prospect in our organization. It's great. But the main thing for this trade was we traded Josh Winkowski, who we basically got for free, giving up Steven Matz. So what we traded to the Blue Jays was we gave them Steven Matz. They took $5 million away from us. So that's great. We have $5 million more to spend, and we got 3 pitching prospects. Turned one of those pitching prospects into Khalil Lee. So we got 2 pitching prospects and a top 10 prospect in our organization for Steven Matz, who no one wanted. So a great piece of great piece of business by the Mets. And the next thing that they did was sign Albert Almora Jr. He's going to be a late inning defensive substitution. He might provide some competition with Brandon Nimmo at center field. He didn't have the best of years in 2020. He just had 30 at-bats, so he's still young, 26. His contract is 1 year, $1.25 million. And I've seen a lot of guys talking about he doesn't have the best bat, and Nimmo doesn't have the best defense. Both of these guys can still improve. Nimmo's only 27 and seems to be working on his defense, and he seems ready to fight for a spot at center field with Almora. Almora adds competition, and he can probably still work on his bat. So if both those guys can pull that off, they can both really fight for the starting role on the Mets, and I think that's very exciting if you're a Mets fan, to have some competition. The next move the Mets made was acquiring Jonathan VR as a free agent. This move, I questioned it when it first happened, because I was thinking, well, we already have a backup infielder in Luis Guillorme. But Jonathan VR, he's going to be a bench guy. He has some speed, a little bit of pop in the bat. Doesn't have the best average, but he does get on base pretty well. His defense isn't the best, but I think he's just quick. He'll back up probably shortstop and second. He'll probably back up to shortstop, even though Lindor doesn't need a backup. He's going to play almost every game of the season, hopefully. And Guillorme will back up third, second, and short. And I think I'll do that pretty well. So it's just adding more competition. Nothing bad for them. That's another great pickup. The next few things, we're getting really close to when I'm recording this. So the next few things, the last thing was trading Ali Sanchez. We designated Brad Brock for assignment. I hope he clears waivers, because I like him. He's a New York native. He pitched pretty well last year. Or not last year, the year before that. So I hope he clears waivers and stays with the Mets. So we also released today was the spring training invites. So some notable names on that are Pete Armstrong, Francisco Alvarez, Matthew Allen, Brett Beatty, Mark Vientos, and Ronnie Mauricio, as well as probably the most important, Tim Tebow. So I'm excited to see spring training. That's going to be not next episode, that's the Ranger one. The next episode, basically. We're going to talk about spring training. So yeah, I hope you like this type of off-the-cuff episode. Let me know on Twitter if you enjoyed. Let me know on Twitter, which is @LukesPod, LUKESPOD. Or just leave a comment, subscribe to the pod, follow it. And let me know if you want more of this off-the-cuff stuff. I'm Luke, your host, and I'll see you in the next one.